Hello and welcome to the PB Eats Kitchen. I am Chef K and today I'm going to show you how to make stuffed acorn squash. Alright, so we have our ingredients here already prepped for you. It's mise en place, all things in place. We have our acorn squash. We have 3 acorn squash which have been split in half, and we've scooped out the seeds. Make sure you keep your seeds for later because you can rinse those off and then you can toast them and have a nice healthy snack. But because we scooped out the seeds, it makes these cute little bowls. We've also just taken a little piece off the back so when you set them down, they don't rock and wobble when we put them into the oven. Be sure when you eat your acorn squash, 1/2 is a serving. However, you could do whatever you like and you can have a whole squash. Just try not to eat too many at one time. All right, so for the rest of our mise en place, we have some olive oil for brushing our squash so they don't burn in the oven. We've got fresh organic sage that I've chopped up here. It smells so amazing. We've got our toasted pecans that we just toasted in the oven for about 5 minutes. Those will go in at the end. We have our wonderful bouillon here, bouillon paste. And just to show you guys, the bouillon paste is better than bouillon. And it's vegan. And we use this stuff on just about everything. This bouillon is going to go into our quinoa when we get ready to prepare it. We have some diced red onion, or for those of you that like to call it by its color, purple onion. That's about 1/2 cup, maybe a little more than 1/2 cup. We've got garlic powder, about 1 tablespoon of garlic powder. We have some sea salt, and we're just going to use the salt to taste. And we also have some toasted quinoa. Now, I toasted this quinoa prior to us boiling it on top of the stove, because when you toast the quinoa prior to, it brings out the aromatics and the nutty flavors in the quinoa itself, and it gives it a really nice flavor profile, especially once we stuff the squash with it. It's going to balance it really well. And last but not least, we have our chickpeas here. It's just 1 can of chickpeas. Now you can soak your dry chickpeas overnight and measure them out, but we did it pretty quick because we wanted this to be quick and efficient for you. So 1 15-ounce can of chickpeas. Make sure you rinse them well and drain the excess water off. All right, so let's get ready to prep our squash. So this is what we're going to do with our quinoa. We're going to take it. I have a nice little saucepan here. We're going to make sure we get all of our quinoa in our pot. And there's some static happening here. Try not to get your quinoa granules everywhere. And it smells really good. The nuttiness from toasting them prior to boiling them is really, really fragrant. So we have that. And we're going to take, before we add our water, just want to let you guys know, so I have 1 cup of quinoa and it'll be 2 cups of water. We're going to add in our sage here. We're going to add just a pinch of salt. We're going to put in our bouillon paste because that's going to give it a lot of flavor. Now I'll put that in there like so. We're going to add in our garlic powder. And we're going to add in our onions. So one good thing about the onions is you can add them in raw, which is what we're going to do here, because they'll cook down in the quinoa. Or what you can do, if you don't want that raw bite of the onion, you could always saute these first. And you can saute them down until they're a little translucent. So I wouldn't really say saute, but more of a sweat, because you really want the flavors to come out. And then you can add them in afterwards. But we're just going to add them in just like this. We're going to pour in our water. Give this a little stir to get the bouillon paste incorporated and dissolved a little bit in there. Smells delicious already, but we need to cook this. So we're going to bring this to a boil, and then we're going to turn it down to a simmer and leave it covered for 25 minutes, and we'll be back. All right, so I know you just saw us prepare the quinoa and put everything in and then add the water to get it all mixed in. One thing you can do is if you don't want all of those ingredients simmering in your quinoa, you could always bring the water to a boil first, and then you add your quinoa in, and from there, once you get your quinoa cooked, when you saute your onions, you can add those other flavors in the onions and then add them. I like to put everything together because as it's cooking and preparing together, all of those flavors are going to meld together vice doing two separate things. But you could do whatever you like. I just wanted to show you a quick and easy way to get that done. But for those who are strictly by the books and boiling the water and putting the quinoa in, you have that option as well. So there you go. All right, you guys, so now we've taken our squash out of the oven, and the squash has been baking for about 35 minutes at 425. So if you didn't catch that before, we preheated the oven for the pecans to toast them at 400, and then once those were finished, we actually roasted our acorn squash at 425 for 35 minutes. So make sure that's key. And I also tested them with a fork just to be sure that they weren't too hard. Got all kinds of things happening in the kitchen today. Our mixture here, we've got our quinoa, we've got half of our pecans in here, the sage is already in there, cooked in there, and the onions, and we added our chickpeas. So with our quinoa, we actually let it cool a little bit, and then we put it in the bowl to add the chickpeas, because the chickpeas were not cooked along with the quinoa. So we wanted to make sure that those were all incorporated together so they're nice and warm. And then we're just going to take a simple spoon like so and stuff our squash. And we've got plenty of quinoa, so we're really going to fill these up. Thanks for watching our video. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel. Also, make sure you hit that bell and select all notifications, because if you don't, you'll be stuck with personal and not all notifications. We need you to have all the notifications. Tune in next time for more tasty treats, and leave a comment below and let us know how you like this recipe. If you tried it, take some photos, head on over to our social media platforms and post your photos.